The HOA president literally tried to steal my lake 3 days after I moved in. I didn't even have time to unpack before the war started. Picture this. I'm standing in my late uncle's cabin, the air still thick with the scent of funeral flowers and old pine, when a pearl-white Escalade crunches up my gravel driveway. Out steps this woman dressed head to toe in a white tennis outfit at 9 in the morning on a Tuesday, holding a leather folder like it's the Constitution. "I'm Belinda Crankshaw, HOA president," she says, shoving papers into my hands before I can even say hello. "This lake is community property. You need to sign over marina operations immediately." The papers felt official, stiff, crisp, even stamped, but something in her eyes gave her away. That fake confidence. That twitch people get when they know they're lying. I had no idea yet that this woman was sitting on a financial time bomb, and that I was the only one who could set it off or stop it from blowing up the whole neighborhood. What would you do if someone tried to steal your inheritance 3 days after a funeral? Let me back up. 6 months ago, I was just Marcus Trenton, a 45-year-old divorced electrician from Detroit, living in a studio apartment that smelled like instant noodles and disappointment. My ex-wife got the house, I got the legal bills. Life felt small. Then my great-uncle Silas died and turned my world upside down. Uncle Silas was the family hermit, 40 years alone on a lake property in Michigan that most people didn't even know existed. The funeral was small. A few weathered neighbors came, whispering stories about how he used to chase away the vultures who wanted his land. The lawyer's office reeked of burnt coffee when he slid the papers across the desk. 2 acres of prime waterfront, Mr. Trenton, he said. Includes 400 feet of shoreline and full underwater rights. There's also an 8-slip marina on your deed. I didn't know what underwater rights meant, but those slips rented for $200 a month. That's $1,600 monthly income. Just like that. When I arrived at the cabin, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. Pine trees rising like cathedrals. A weathered 1960s cabin that smelled of sawdust and lake air, and docks stretching into crystal water like old bones from a forgotten dream. This was my chance at peace. My fresh start. Then Belinda Crankshaw appeared. 3 days after the funeral, I was measuring for new windows when gravel exploded under the Escalade's tires. Out she came, radiating pure entitlement. 2 nervous men trailed behind her, board members, I guessed. She marched straight up to my porch. "We need to discuss your situation," she announced, holding that folder like a judge's gavel. "Situation?" I asked, still holding my tape measure. She handed me printed documents with the HOA logo on top. "Your lake access is community property. You need to sign over marina operations to Lakeshore Estates HOA for $1 annually." I stared at her, then the papers. $1? For 8 slips? "That's how this community operates," she said, her tone like she was talking to a child. "We maintain standards, protect property values, and ensure our residents feel comfortable. We can't allow inappropriate commercial activity disrupting family life." The way she said inappropriate hit me like a slap. Her smile never reached her eyes. "You have 48 hours to sign, or we'll handle it legally. Ask the Hendersons how that worked out." She adjusted her sunglasses and turned on her heel, leaving the smell of expensive perfume and arrogance behind her. That night, I couldn't sleep. The cabin creaked with the sound of wind off the lake, and the moonlight shimmered across the docks Uncle Silas had built with his own hands. I sat at his old desk surrounded by stacks of yellowed papers that smelled like damp wood and time itself. His journals. They were meticulous. Every expense, every inspection, every letter, and what I read made my blood run cold. "Belinda thinks she's smart," one entry said, "but she doesn't know about the 1999 county easement agreement. $12,000 annual fee for lake access rights. Haven't seen a payment in years. Whoever inherits this place, that's your nuclear option." Nuclear option. My hands shook. Another page. "Marina sits entirely on my underwater property. Every chain, cleat, and dock post, mine by deed. Let them try." My pulse pounded in my ears. Uncle Silas had known exactly what he was doing. He hadn't just left me property, he'd left me ammunition. The next morning, I woke to the sound of vehicles again, 3 this time, a county inspection truck, a sheriff's deputy, and Belinda's Escalade. The smell of diesel exhaust drifted through my kitchen window as I poured coffee. "Mr. Trenton," said the county inspector, a stocky man with gray hair and a clipboard, "we've received complaints about unpermitted commercial activity, possible environmental violations, and structural issues." Behind him, Belinda stood smiling, arms folded. I could have laughed if I wasn't so angry. 3 days, and she already had me under investigation. The inspector walked the property, checking everything while I followed silently. When Belinda finally went back to her car, he leaned closer and whispered, "Your uncle was a good man. This lady's been filing complaints against you for 3 weeks before you even moved in." "3 weeks?" I said. "She didn't even know me." He nodded. "Yeah, that tell you something?" When he left, I went straight to the basement. The air was cool and thick with the smell of dust and engine oil. I pulled open filing cabinets full of neatly labeled folders. 40 years of documentation. Every letter the HOA had sent, every response Uncle Silas had written, every canceled check they'd refused to cash. He'd been preparing for this fight long before I arrived. And now it was my turn. That evening I sat at his old desk, surrounded by the scent of pine and lake water, and began drafting my response. Belinda thought she was dealing with some lost city fool. She had no idea she'd just declared war on her landlord. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of angry voices drifting through my open kitchen window. The smell of wet pine mixed with the sharp tang of lake air as I stepped onto the porch with my coffee. Belinda Crankshaw was standing at the edge of my driveway again, this time with a camera crew of sorts. 2 men from the HOA holding clipboards and phones, recording every inch of my property like I was running a crime scene. "Mrs. Crankshaw," I called out, forcing calm into my voice, "you're trespassing." She gave me a smile so sweet it could rot teeth. "We're simply documenting community violations for the HOA file, Mr. Trenton. You'll be receiving official notice shortly." Her voice carried that clipped tone of someone who believed rules only applied to other people. I glanced at the cameras, then at her fake pearl earrings glinting in the morning light. "You want to play legal?" I said quietly. "Let's play legal." That night, the smell of old paper filled the cabin as I went deeper into Uncle Silas's files. His handwriting was shaky in the last few years, but his notes were laser sharp. Every HOA interaction documented, every name, every date. One folder labeled Marina payments stopped me cold. Inside were invoices he'd sent to the HOA, yearly $12,000 lake access fees dating back to 1999. Only the first 4 had ever been paid. The last 20 years? Unpaid. Each stamped notice of non-payment. Uncle Silas had kept the receipts. Every one of them. I wasn't dealing with a neighborhood club. I was dealing with organized theft. By the next afternoon, I was ready. I called the county inspector, Dave Morrison, the one who'd given me that quiet warning. "Dave," I said, "I need to file some reports of my own. Trespassing, illegal use of private property, and unlicensed commercial activity." "What commercial activity?" he asked. "The HOA's been renting my marina slips for 15 years at $200 a month each. They've never paid me a dime." There was a pause, then a low whistle. "You've got proof?" 40 years worth. "Jesus," he said, "you want this handled quiet or loud?" "Loud," I said. "Very loud." By sundown, my phone buzzed with calls from neighbors, some angry, some curious, a few sympathetic. Then came the knock at my door. Tom and Betty Henderson stood there, holding a plate of cookies that smelled like cinnamon and anxiety. "We heard what Belinda's trying to do," Betty said, glancing around like she expected Belinda to jump out from the bushes. "We brought you something." Tom handed me a worn folder. Inside were 17 violation notices the HOA had sent them before they were forced to sell their home last year. Mailbox color non-compliant. Grass exceeds approved length. Trash visible for over 30 minutes past pickup time. She destroyed us, Tom said, voice rough. $31,000 in legal fees just trying to keep our house. Then her husband Dale suddenly found issues with our mortgage paperwork. You can guess the rest. I could. They'd been harassed until they gave up, but Betty leaned forward, her eyes flashing. We're not the only ones. 3 other families went through the same thing. All sold at 60% of market value. All to the same shell company. My stomach dropped. That night the air felt heavy, charged with a storm that hadn't broken yet. I sat on the dock with Uncle Silas's journal open in my lap, the lake black and still beneath me. The crickets chirped, frogs croaked, and my coffee went cold in my hands. She'd built an empire on fear and paperwork. But fear only works until someone pushes back. The next morning, I went on the offensive. I called a maritime property lawyer named Patricia Wong, recommended by Tom. Her voice was calm but confident. Mr. Trenton, I reviewed your documents, she said after an hour. You're sitting on a goldmine of legal leverage. Your riparian rights are ironclad. But that's not the real story. What do you mean? I've seen this HOA president's name before. Belinda Crankshaw has acquired 4 lakefront properties in the past 8 years using harassment and forced buyouts. Her husband's bank holds the mortgages on most HOA homes. It's a racket. My grip tightened around the phone. You're saying this is deliberate? Absolutely. It's systematic fraud disguised as neighborhood management. Quote. She paused, then added, and you're the first person with enough documentation to bring her down. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up drafting a detailed letter to every homeowner in the subdivision, 47 in total. I included the unpaid easement fees, the fraud, the conflicts of interest, and a demand for $144,000 in back rent for illegal use of my lake bottom. Each letter ended with the same line. Effective immediately. All boats must be removed within 30 days or will be considered abandoned property. I mailed them certified the next morning. By Thursday, my phone was exploding. Half the neighborhood depended on my marina for access to the lake. Without it, their property values would plummet. Some were furious, others desperate, but a surprising number were quietly supportive. About time someone stood up to her, one older man whispered when he caught me at the gas station. We've been scared for years. But the call that changed everything came from Patricia Wong herself. Marcus, she said, her tone sharp, I found it, the 1999 county easement agreement your uncle mentioned. And? The HOA owes you $312,000 in back payments. Without that agreement, they lose all lake access. 31 homes drop 40% in value overnight. I nearly dropped the phone. So Belinda's been fighting to protect her entire kingdom, I said. Exactly, and you're holding the detonator. That night, the rain finally came. I sat on the porch listening to thunder roll over the lake, lightning flashing across the black water. Somewhere out there, Belinda was panicking, and I was just getting started. By Friday morning, word had spread faster than wildfire on dry grass. The HOA was in full panic mode. I couldn't step outside without seeing people whispering by their mailboxes or pretending to walk their dogs past my cabin. The lake, once calm and peaceful, now felt like it was holding its breath. Belinda's desperation hit a new level. At 6:30 a.m., I woke to the sound of heavy trucks on my gravel drive. When I looked outside, 2 county vehicles and her Escalade were parked side by side like a blockade. The smell of diesel and wet dirt filled the air. Out stepped Belinda, wearing that same white tennis outfit like armor, her hair sprayed stiff against the breeze. Mr. Trenton, the inspector said uneasily, we're here on reports of environmental contamination, possible leakage from your septic system. I laughed. That's creative, I'll give her that. The inspector checked everything, soil, pipes, drains. After an hour, he frowned. Your system's perfect. Somebody's wasting our time. He gave Belinda a look that could cut glass before driving off. She didn't even blink. This isn't over, she said. her voice calm but trembling underneath. "Good," I said. I like seeing bullies squirm. By that afternoon, the real cracks started to show. Tom Henderson came by with news that made me grin for the first time in weeks. Marcus, 2 HOA board members just resigned. They're scared they'll get dragged into lawsuits. Quote, "About time," I said, handing him a cup of coffee that steamed in the cold air. But the real bombshell came that night when my attorney Patricia Wong called. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Belinda's been using fake shell companies to buy out families she harassed. Her husband's bank financed the mortgages, then flipped the homes under the HOA's name. It's organized real estate fraud." I froze. "You can prove it?" Quote, "I already have. County records, fake signatures, duplicate deeds. It's all there. The FBI's been looped in." I sat back in Uncle Silas's creaky chair, staring at the lake beyond the window. Rain pattered against the glass like nervous fingers. Uncle Silas had called it years ago. Let the vultures come. The next owner will have all the ammunition they need. Turns out I was the next owner, and the ammunition was about to explode. The following morning, Belinda called an emergency HOA meeting. Flyers were everywhere in red ink: urgent community health hazard, public safety concern. I wasn't invited, of course, but Tom and Betty went. When they came back, Tom looked like he'd seen a ghost. "She's lost it," he said. "Told everyone you're polluting the lake, running illegal operations, planning to turn the marina into some kind of fishing camp for strangers. She's got half the town terrified." "Let her spin her story," I said. "Tomorrow she'll face mine." That night I found something I'd missed before. A sealed envelope in the back of Uncle Silas's filing cabinet marked for my heir when the vultures circle. Inside was a copy of the original easement contract, dated 1999, signed by the county and witnessed by 2 officials. It clearly stated, annual payment of $12,000 required to maintain community lake access. Lapse of payment for more than 12 months terminates agreement. They hadn't paid in 8 years, which meant as of that moment, the entire HOA no longer had legal access to the lake. That was the night I stopped defending myself and went on the attack. I spent 3 hours typing letters to every homeowner, explaining in simple words that Belinda's negligence had cost them their lake access. No threats, no anger, just truth. Saturday morning, the annual HOA meeting began at the community center. The air inside smelled like disinfectant and fear. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. 47 households packed the folding chairs. Reporters were there too, cameras already rolling. Belinda sat at the front wearing a navy blazer, fake pearls shining under the lights, smile stretched tight as a wire. Dale, her husband, sat beside her, tapping nervously on his phone. She opened with her usual icy confidence. "Thank you all for coming. We're here to address ongoing community disruptions caused by Mr. Trenton." "Actually," I interrupted, standing from the back row, "we're here to talk about fraud." The room went still. I walked to the front holding a thick folder. "You've all been paying $250 a month in marina maintenance fees, right?" Heads nodded. "Well, my uncle's records show the HOA only paid him $200 per member. That's $50 a month per household for 15 years. Belinda's been pocketing the difference. That's $36,000 stolen from you." Quote, a ripple of outrage rolled through the room. Before she could respond, Patricia Wong entered, trailed by 2 men in dark suits flashing FBI badges. "Mrs. Belinda Crankshaw," one said firmly, "you're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit real estate theft." Gasps erupted. Dale tried to bolt for the door, but deputies were already there. The sound of handcuffs closing was the most satisfying click I'd ever heard. Belinda's mask finally cracked. "You can't do this! This is my community!" "No," I said quietly. "It's mine. Always was." Cameras flashed. Neighbors whispered. The mighty HOA president was escorted out in front of everyone she'd terrorized for years. When the room calmed, I turned back to the crowd. Look, I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm offering a deal. The HOA owes me $147,000 in back easement payments. I'll forgive it if we rebuild this place right, together. A transparent board, fair dues, and honest management. A hush, then applause. For the first time, people were smiling at each other instead of glaring. 6 months later, the air by the lake smelled like summer again. Barbecue smoke, wildflowers, and freedom. The new HOA board had cut fees in half. Property values went up. Families who'd left were moving back. Belinda? She pleaded guilty to 14 counts of fraud and racketeering, 18 months in federal prison. Her husband lost his banking license and the house she bought with stolen money. We renamed the marina Trenton Landing. There's a community garden by the docks now, and every spring the kids paint the benches bright colors. Even little Emma Crankshaw, their daughter, comes by sometimes with her grandmother. She smiles now. That says everything. Uncle Silas's lake had become what it was always meant to be, a place for good people to live free, without fear. Some nights, I sit on the dock with Rebecca Marsh, our new board secretary, and, well, my girlfriend, watching the sun melt into the water. The air smells of pine and peace. Funny how fast a nightmare can turn into a new beginning. If you've ever had an HOA try to bully you, remember this. Bullies fall hardest when people stand together. Now this lake belongs to everyone who loves it, not the ones who tried to own it.